Blue and red lights flooded my bedroom. The queen of our HOA, Barb Jennings, stood there in cuffs. My stolen money wadded in her fist, while her son Chad screamed at the cops from the curb, half the neighbors gawking like it was pay per view. In that split second, I realized this wasn't just about a break-in or a grudge. This was a war, and the so-called royalty of Cedar Oaks was about to go down hard, dragging their kingdom of lies with them. Let me back up, though, because you have to understand how a war like this even starts. I moved to Whisper Lane thinking I'd found peace, a quiet, cookie-cutter neighborhood where the biggest drama would be whose mailbox got dinged first by the landscaping truck. I'm a tech guy, not a troublemaker, and all I really wanted was a little garden, some quiet evenings, maybe a friendly wave here and there. But in this place, everything looked perfect only on the outside. Those fake smiles, those pristine lawns, all policed by the HOA and their iron-fisted queen, Barb. Barb was the kind of person who'd compliment your flowers and insult you in the same breath. You know, Mason, it's just so surprising to see someone like you putting effort into your yard, she told me, standing there in leopard print like a discount safari guide, that smile full of teeth and zero warmth. From that moment, I knew I didn't belong, not in her eyes. Her son Chad was always lurking too, glaring from his lifted truck, making sure the message was clear. This street was theirs, and I was an intruder. But I kept my head down, paid my dues, tried to ignore the little digs, the late night notes about neighborhood character, the stupid fines for things like my garbage cans being out 10 minutes late. I even tried laughing it off. How serious could people be about mailbox paint? But the tension never left, just hummed quietly until that day everything snapped. I'd had a hell of a day, back calls, way too much coffee. All I wanted was to crash with some Thai takeout and bad TV. But as I rolled onto my street, I saw a light flick on in my upstairs window. I'm obsessive about turning things off, and my heart just sank. I parked 3 houses down, crept inside through the garage, every instinct screaming that something was off. I could smell Barb's perfume before I saw her, a cloud of cheap flowers and entitlement. And there she was, in my bedroom, standing over my dresser, counting out $100 bills from my wallet like it was her weekly allowance. I stood there, fists clenched, voice low, "Get out of my house." She didn't even flinch. She spun around, looked at me like I was the trespasser, and with that signature Barb audacity. She called 911, spun some tale about how I'd threatened her, how she was performing a security check for the HOA. I watched her do it, holding my cash in one hand and her phone in the other. When the police showed up, I knew exactly how this would look. Her playing the victim, me as the aggressive outsider. But I wasn't losing this time. I kept calm, showed them my security cam footage, clear as day. Barb waltzing into my house, digging through my stuff, taking the money. Watching her face drop when the officers saw that video, priceless. She went from righteous to rattled so fast it was almost funny. They cuffed her right there, read her rights, and hauled her off as Chad roared up in his truck, cursing me out like I'd just burned down the whole subdivision. But if I thought it was over, I was way off. 2 days later, I got a fat envelope from the HOA, signed by their spineless president, Ted Norris, accusing me of breaking bylaws with my camera, creating a public disturbance, and being aggressive. They hit me with fines, summoned me to a disciplinary hearing, and word spread fast. Suddenly, neighbors who used to wave were avoiding me, whispering as I checked my mail. And Chad started parking outside my house for hours, revving his engine, throwing out slurs just loud enough for me to hear. I'll admit it, I started to doubt myself, lying awake, listening for noises, wondering if I should just move, just let them have their kingdom of beige and boredom. For a minute there, I felt like maybe they'd win, like maybe I really was the villain in their story. But the thing is, that kind of fear just doesn't sit right with me. I realized if I ran now, I'd be running for the rest of my life. So I lawyered up, hired Jessica Vance, a real pit bull of an attorney, and started digging. I pulled public records, audited HOA finances, pieced together old board minutes, anything to figure out how Barb had gotten away with this for so long. And then I found the crack in their armor. Chad wasn't just a bully, he was drowning in gambling debts, tied to a local loan shark. And Barb had been stealing not for herself, but to keep his neck above water. That changed everything. I confronted Chad directly, let him know what I knew, and, face pale, hands shaking, he flipped. Told me about the unlogged master keys, the books slush fund, the way Barb had been inspecting empty houses for years, taking whatever she liked, all with the board's blessing. I got statements from other residents who'd been targeted, dug up canceled checks to shell companies, even found proof that Ted himself had signed off on shady consulting fees straight to Barb's address. By the time the hearing rolled around, the clubhouse was packed, Ted and Barb looking smug at their table, the rest of the board circling their wagons, the whole neighborhood waiting for fireworks. Ted tried to bury me in accusations, called me a threat to community harmony. That's when Jessica stood up, calm as you please, plugged in her laptop, and started running through the evidence, security footage, Barb stealing, audio of Chad's racist rants, affidavits about those proactive inspections, a whole spreadsheet tracking embezzled funds that made half the room gasp. For the first time, Barb's mask broke. She started shouting it was all a setup, but nobody was buying it. Ted went white, trying to call the meeting out of order, but the residents weren't having it. People started shouting, demanding resignations, the police there to keep order. In less than 30 minutes, their whole rotten operation unraveled. Barb and Ted both indicted. Barb shipped off to jail for burglary, fraud, and racketeering. Chad vanished. His truck repoed by guys who definitely weren't from a bank. The old board dissolved. A court-appointed trustee took over. Master keys got locked up tight. And suddenly, those fake smiles and sideways glances disappeared. I wasn't the villain anymore. I wasn't even the troublemaker. I was the guy who finally ripped the mask off the monsters in charge. I still walk my yard every evening, sometimes half, expecting to see that golf cart rolling by or Chad's truck parked out front. But it's quiet now, the kind of quiet you fight for, not the kind you're forced into. And if you ask me what I learned, I'll tell you this. In a world of fake order, real peace only comes when you stand your ground and refuse to be run out, no matter who holds the keys.